Welcome back to Light Talk, where the paranormal and the supernatural is a part of our everyday lives. We have a really special guest today. I am really excited to have her on the show. She's got lots of the stories for us, and I can't wait to hear them. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome to the show, and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, Dana. Thank you for asking me. This was very nice. My name is Dawn Livingstone. I am an ascension guide and energy healer. Um, and you asked me to come on it and chat about my mystical experiences. And I'm not really used to having, somebody come on and say, come and talk to us. I'm usually looking for guests for my TV show. So this was a novelty for me, but I thought, yeah, let's have a chat and see what we can do. So really, like I explained to you earlier, I have had mystical experiences since I was 12 years old that I can remember, but only really recognized them a few years ago, to be completely honest. When I was 12 years old, I'd been going through some stuff at school. I'd been getting bullied, quite a lot from late primary school into high school and even into college. I wasn't really having a good experience at school, as you can imagine. Um, and I remember being home one night and going to bed and having a particularly bad day. I remember asking to myself, I was feeling quite depressed, quite low. And I asked myself, I wonder what it would be like if I didn't exist. And then another thought came in that said, I wonder what it would be like if the world didn't exist. And then the next thought was, well, I wonder what it would be like if nothing existed. And instantaneously, everything went completely black. It was quiet. It was calm. And I remember a very slight hum, like a vibration, a very tiny, tiny vibration. But to be totally honest with you, I couldn't understand what it was, but it was peaceful. It was calm. And it wasn't until a few years ago that I actually recognized that I had actually been taken to the void, right into the void. And I had asked the question and I was getting the answers. I just didn't realize what I was dealing with at that time. So that's really the first thing that I experienced that I can remember. And it just kind of, came in dribs and drabs and, snowballed from then. I remember when I used to work at Sky TV in Scotland. And I was out looking for things to do on evenings and weekends. And I remember talking to a girl at work one day, and she told me that her neighbour was doing a Reiki class that weekend. Now, Dina, I had no idea what Reiki was. I had absolutely no idea. I was just looking for something to do either during the evenings or on a weekend, just looking for something to do. And she said, give it a shout and see if she can fit you in. I'm like, okay, super, super. Called her up, got an appointment, and went along to the class the next again day. And you'll know that for your first degree attunements, you get two on the first day and you get two on the second day. I went home after my first two attunements at the end of that first day, and I was literally crying just about all the way home because the trees had leaves. I could see leaves on the trees, and I never ever noticed them before. And the sky looked really bright because the sun was behind the clouds, but I had never noticed how bright it was before. I just started to see things like this instead of like this. I just felt like the Reiki had taken, the blinkers off me. So that, everybody says, oh, Reiki always, everybody starts off with their energy healing with Reiki. That certainly was the case with me. It made quite a difference in my life. And I went on to practice that, went on to do my second degree and my third degree, within the year. And within 6 months after that, I was teaching classes. I just absolutely loved it. It made such an impact in my life. So a little bit after that, my my dad unfortunately passed. Now, my younger sister and I, we loved a bit of a psychic reading. And we used to go to this lady, maybe 15 miles away from us. She was excellent, absolutely excellent. And we had this appointment booked with her, both my sister and I, and it was about approximately 6 weeks after our dad had died. So we were still planning to keep this. About 3 weeks before the appointment, I was asleep in my bed. And you know how we were talking before about being at that place between asleep and awake. Just all of a sudden, it went black again, dead silence. Now, I don't know if you would understand what I mean, but in the UK, we had the Kellogg's cornflakes advert, and you could see the sun coming down through the clouds in waves like that. So it looked like to me, from my left side, there was like holes fizzling. And it was like I was in a paper bag, a dark paper bag, and there was holes fizzling in this side. And the light came through and beamed over like this. And it swept from the back and it started to sweep towards me. And it lit up my dad's face. He was all in light. And of course, you know who your dad is. I could see him. Every single aspect of his face was all in light. And I just, I could feel myself getting all buzzing and goosebumps. And he put this big smile on his face. And I thought, oh, Dad, how are you? And he just put a big smile and then he put his hand up. And the hand was coming towards me and it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger like that. And then all of a sudden I thought, oh my God, he's come to take me. Right? That was the first thing that went through my mind. He's come to take me. It must be my time. And I thought, and I pulled back and just he disappeared. Now, I never told a soul about that. Not a soul, not even my sister. So we went to this reading, this medium, and I went in first. And she sat down and she says, okay, she says, there's a man here and he wants to apologize to you. I says, okay. She says, he gave you a fright. She says, is your dad recently passed? I said, yes, actually, he has. She told me exactly what I experienced. She says, he
Oh,
said he
wow.
reached out to you in light and he scared you and he disappeared and he just wants to apologize for that. He didn't want to scare you. I was just beside myself. So that was like
Oh, I just
a
got chills.
validation for me. I know it was goosebumps, but that was validation for me, about there is something after death. I absolutely know that. A few years after that, my grandmother passed, and I was visiting my mother from America at that time. So I was in her spare room, and we had been to see my grandmother in her care place. And I went in to see her and holding her hand, and I just had that feeling I knew she wasn't going to be long. She had dementia, but I knew she wasn't going to be long. And I think it's 2 days after that, again, the place between asleep and awake, 1 o'clock in the morning. And all I heard was, Dawn, Dawn, can you hear me? And I'm again, consciously aware of what was happening. And I was like, is that you, Grandma? She says, yes, it's me, it's me. So I had a bit of a conversation with her. She was with my grandfather, everything was good. Can you pass a message to your mum? I was like, absolutely, of course I can. Told her I loved her. And I was all goosebumps at this time, and then she says, right, I have to go now. I says, okay, that's absolutely fine. And then I heard my mother coming into the room. She had just had the phone call to say that my grandma had passed. And I was like, I know, Mum. She says, what do you know? I says, she's gone. I know she's gone. I've just spoken to her. So I don't know whether she was shocked or comforted by that, but I couldn't not tell her and pass the message on. So these are the type of things I get. I sometimes get voices as well. It's very strange. Sometimes when I'm coming out of sleep or, feeling myself coming back into my body after an out-of-body experience or astral traveling, I hear all these voices. and it's like somebody's running past me. I get, hi, Dawn. And it's like stereo, hi, Dawn. It goes from left to right. It's very, very strange. Very strange. So yeah, that's been very interesting. These slash, sometimes I get images, and it's not maybe until years later where I actually find out who that person was that came to me and spoke to me and gave a message. Um, it it's not always about somebody close to me, because I had a visit from somebody he'd been killed on a motorbike accident, and it was actually 15 years after I met him when I was on holiday. But apparently, I was the only person that he knew of that he could reach, which I found very strange at that time, because it took me a few years to actually realize who he was. So that's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, I had something similar to that. I had a friend in high school that was in a wheelchair and he would never be able to walk. And after high school, he gave me a call. We talked, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm coaching football, blah blah." And I'm like, "Oh, great! That's awesome." Knowing him, yeah, nothing's going to stop him. And then fairly soon after that, I had this dream that I was in his room in heaven, and everything was white. You could see where the bed was, the dresser, and the walls, and all that. And he had stood up and started walking towards me, but very wobbly. I found
Mhm.
out not but 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, or something like that now, that he passed about that time.
Mhm.
So it was like, that was just like heartwarming that he came to me and let me know. That was really cool.
It's lovely. And I think if you're
Mm.
open to it, then it's likely to happen. And now I don't have any fear of it at all. I actually welcome any communication like that. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I think it's a great gift I have, probably one I've not really thought about for a long time, and I probably don't use it as much as I would like. But I'm very, very open to it, and the more open you are, the more you can expect it to come through. Um, Sometimes it's all to do with your state of mind as well, and where you are in the world, how you're feeling, where your vibration level is as to what you're going to experience, because the lower you are, the more negative your experiences will be. And I discovered that in my last marriage, actually, my previous marriage. I hadn't been having a good time, wasn't happy, couldn't put my finger on it, didn't know quite what was wrong. I used to have really crazy dreams for the last 5 years of our marriage. My dreams would be off the charts. They were incoherent, they were total chaos, and they were so vivid and so bright in my memory. I had a book this thick. I used to write it all down. I had a book this thick, and I used to look at it and read it back sometimes, and I just couldn't make sense of it. I couldn't make head nor tail of it. It was just so repeatedly chaotic. And some of the other experience that I had, everybody talks about ET experiences, and it's not something I talk about a lot. But I did have, I think, about three experiences that were very roughly the same. And I relate to them as the greys. I don't know whether they're the short ones or the tall ones. It doesn't really matter to me. But again, at that place between asleep and awake where you feel really heavy. And I thought, oh, wonder what's happening here. And it was almost like I was pulled from my body. There was that tug. It really wasn't a nice feeling. And I was feeling quite uncomfortable at the time. And I remember looking to my left and I saw three faces, and they weren't good looks on their faces. And it gave me chills, still gives me chills thinking about it now. Um, I'm not going to talk about what happened, but it was a total violation. It just was not right at all. And then sometimes they used to put me back into my body, but it was like they would grab me by my feet and were all me around. So I was going through the walls and and the
Oh my
furniture and the
goodness.
doors, and it was
Oh,
just,
that's
and I
scary.
would wake up kicking and screaming and
Oh,
really scary at the time. Now I understand it's all relates to your state of mind and your vibration, your level of vibration. If you're in a good place, you don't experience these things, but you will experience these things if you believe in them, if you think they're going to happen, then they'll happen because we create our life, yeah, based on what we believe. So I found that out rather quickly. So after the third episode of that, I just totally had it was just a big mindset change. And then I don't experience anything like that now because I know it only exists if I want it to. I never don't want it to, so I don't bring it into fruition. So yeah, that wasn't a good experience. It was one of the negative things. But I think you've got to go through these things to understand. I think that's how we learn. You've got to go through the things that are not comfortable for you.
mhm.
Get yourself out of the comfort zone. I think it you're not given anything that you can't handle.
Right.
And whether it might be a bit shocking at that time, it's something I believe that we have all agreed to learn. We want that this is what I'm coming here to learn. I'm agreeing to this. So that is what you experience. And I think it's how you respond to that. So you can either withdraw and try and ignore it, and then you'll experience a lot more of it until you learn it, or you can go with the flow and you can just go through it because that's the only way. It's the only way out of these type of experiences is to go through it instead of resisting it. And I've found that a lot lately. If you
Wow.
if you if you don't resist and just go with the flow, then things just happen. Whether it's good or bad, it's all the same. It's all energy moving. We've got to move through it. So it doesn't matter whether it's a good or a bad thing, we've still got to experience it. So why make it any more difficult for ourselves than we really have to? You know,
Because everything's a lesson. Everything's
everything
a
at
lesson.
all. And you can either see it as an opportunity to learn, or you can see it as a victim. And if you see it with the latter, then you're not going to get very far. You're just going to keep it, creating these type of experiences until you actually get the message. So not everything negative is negative. It's there to teach you something. And I think we should embrace it, and look at it as an opportunity and a challenge, to go a little bit deeper and find out what it is that you're actually being presented with to help your spiritual growth and your expansion. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's like a lot, even in life. Life is kind of like that too. I mean, we all have our corporate jobs and everything that we do. And for me, I'm to this point now, I find that it's so hard for me to work with other people now. I never had that problem, but now it's like I think my energy is changing and that it's bringing me closer to the time of getting my own business running and getting it up and moving because it's just so much harder to be with people day in, day out like
Yeah,
that.
because your
It's so,
energy will be changing, it'll be improving. You'll be doing the
yeah,
work to actually raise your vibration, and the people around you aren't. But that's what we naturally progress to. Once we elevate our vibration, we naturally lose the people that are lower vibration in our life. And that's the way of life, isn't it? But sometimes we see that as sad because we're a wee bit unsettled with the change, from losing people from our life, a change in job, but it's only because you need to have that change in job that's helping you grow. So we need
right.
to we need to start looking at it like that. Being fired from your job is not a bad thing. You're fired from your job for a reason because it's not the right job for you. Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether you're fired for cause or not, there is something better out there for you. And I think if we look at it that way, then we'll get over it a lot faster and be able to move on instead of, dragging yourself back and staying in a victim mentality, which a lot of people do. People do, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, more recently, I've been doing a lot of astral traveling and not just letting it, allowing it to happen. It's actually obviously forcing it to happen, but bringing it on myself, which has been very interesting, very interesting. I had been asking to see the structure of the universe. I asked the question, can you please show me the structure of the universe? I would just like to understand and give me it visually as to how I'm going to understand it, how I can perceive it properly. And it was a few weeks, but I got a message that showed me a tree trunk. When you cut down a tree, you can look down on the trunk and you see all the different rings. Well, this was part one. So this was the two-dimensional. So the outer, where the bark is, okay, that is the physical realm. It's the densest realm. And all the way inside is all the other different dimensions. Right. So okay, that was plain enough to understand. And in the next image that I got, it was like a slideshow, actually. It wasn't really an image, it was more like a slideshow. They gave me an image of the earth. And I thought, okay, that's the earth. I understand that. And then the next thing, there was a wedge cut out of this earth, and you could see all the different layers inside. So right into the molten rock, right at the very center. So this was a three-dimensional, the way it is. Now, what I get, do you know what it reminds me of, Dana? Is I'm assuming you've seen Interstellar, the movie.
Yeah,
You
but
haven't seen it? Okay. There's a part in it where he goes through a black hole in a spaceship, and it looks like he falls down into like thousands and thousands of identical compartments. So he comes all the way down, but it's all the same thing that's going on. He sees his daughter in all of them. So to me, that we create there's so many dimensions. There's so many different instances of what it is that we're doing, and we can go in any direction. So that was very eye-opening to me. I probably didn't explain that too well, but for me, I understand it now. I think that's a lot more interesting. There's people out there saying there's only 6 dimensions, or there's only 9 dimension, or there's a 12th dimension. And I'm told there's an infinite amount of dimensions out there.
hmm.
An infinite amount of lives that we could live out there. So that was really fascinating to me. That answered a lot of questions, and it makes me see things very differently, very differently. But the bark being on the outside is the densest level. That's the realm of matter, which is physical reality. And of course, everything else is inside, isn't it? It's not on the outside of the bark, it's on the inside of the bark. And that's exactly how we should depict ourselves, really, is that everything is inside us. It's not all outside us. So if you want to change what's outside of you, if you're not happy with your physical reality, change needs to come from in here, not from out there, because we can't control everything, but we can control what we do within. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, I haven't heard it said that way, but yeah, yeah, it's another very good visual of
Yeah. And it was
working
in a
from
way
the
I could
inside out.
handle. Yeah, it's a way I
Yeah.
could handle. So I completely understood it. But going
Mm.
back to the astral traveling, I found I could do this unintentionally. I wasn't thinking about doing it. I had been to the gym, and I had been working really hard. I was a good girl at the gym that day, and I was physically exhausted. My brain had so much oxygen. It was like, okay, let's go. What are we doing? And my body's like, hell no, you're going for a sleep. So I remember getting home and thinking, oh, I'm just going to crash on the couch for a little while. Threw myself on the couch instantaneously. This is the first time I really remember this. I had a fluttering in my ears, like a vibration in my ear. And another way I could probably describe it, it's like you have um, oh, what's these tiny wee birds with the long beak? the ones that hover. Oh my goodness.
Hummingbirds.
Hummingbird, thank you. Yeah, somebody ate my words today. So it's like a hummingbird's wings are flapping that fast in my ear, and it's causing like a vibration, and it goes up and down and up and down. But consciously, I was awake. I'm thinking, this is new. What's happening here? The next thing I was off down this wormhole. You ever see Stargate when they go through Stargate and you see them going through this wormhole and all these different bends in it and different colors and lights? That was me. I was off down this wormhole.
Funny you
Not
say
just
that.
one. Yeah, I
I
know,
just,
but
sorry, I just watched that movie. So for the first time. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
so I was going through all these different wormholes because I could feel the change in vibration. The color was changed. It was like the structure of the wormhole had changed. Some of it looked like it was thinner, some looked like it was bigger, some of them had bendy bits, and some of them were, narrow. So I could tell that I was traveling somewhere very, very interesting. Ended up, I can't even explain where it was. It was almost like it was another planet, another location. Anyway, I I seemed to have been in bed, so I remember getting out of bed and walking over to the window, and there was people out, and they were lying on loungers, and they were in the ocean, splashing about in the ocean, but it was dark. It was totally dark, which was very, very strange. And I remember turning around and I could see myself lying in bed. And I was like, oh, there's me. And all of a sudden, I was right back into my body. So that happened another 2 or 3 times until I learned that I need to stop looking at myself when I have one of these traveling experiences. Because as soon as you look at yourself or you think, oh, there's my body, it's instantaneous. And that's where you go because that's what you've talked about and that's what you've thought. And if you're not in the physical reality, thoughts happen instantaneously. So that's exactly what was happening. So yeah, I've managed to do these sort of things, a few times. And I've had a couple of guys on my show actually, who are from the Astral Traveller Institute, and we have had some really good conversations. And apparently there's not many people that can do that type of direct astral traveling. So, and I did that without even realizing what was happening. So yeah, astral traveling is great. You just have to remember not to look at your body. Otherwise, you're right back in it. You're right back in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a travel one time. I went out and I was out in space, just laying there in space, just like, you know how you lay on your stomach and just kind of do
Yeah,
this and your
yeah.
feet are all up in the back. I was doing that and I was slowly spinning and just looking at all the stars in the darkness.
Isn't it wonderful?
Oh, it was beautiful.
Mhm. It
Absolutely
is.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Past lives as well. I've had my mind changed a lot about past lives because in the last few years, I don't think they're past lives because I believe that there is only the now. We don't have this linear time. I mean, that's a human construct. We say past, present, and future, whereas above physicality, there is only now. Right? There's no past, there's no future. There is just the very present moment. And everybody talks about, past lives and regression, but I've learned a lot. I've been asking some questions and I've been learning a lot about it. And that there really is no such thing as past lives. There are concurrent lives. So everything is happening at the same time because there's no past and there's no future. I read a couple of books because I was very interested in my galactic heritage, right? Because I don't feel I am from this planet. I have never felt comfortable here. I move around a lot because I don't feel like I belong. So this information, it meant a lot to me. I read a couple of books by Lisa Royale Holt, I think her name is. The first one was called The Prism of Lyra, and that explained about our galactic heritage. Now, I have always felt an affinity with Pleiades for some reason. And that book just cemented for me that I am more than likely at least partly from there. Maybe half, maybe even 25%. It doesn't matter, but I have roots there. And there was also another book that she read, that she wrote in sequence to The Prism of Lyra, and it was called The Golden Lake. And this, after reading this book, it just made total sense to me, and it also further explained that there are no past lives; everything's happening at once. Now, I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, I had." I in a former life, I was, a pharaoh, or I was Mary Magdalene, or, anybody of significance, which is absolutely fine. But this book just ticked all the boxes for me. She explains that when you take an in-breath, that is when your experience since your last breath gets pushed into, she calls it the lake, but we'll call it the void, so into all that is. And she says, and when you breathe out, you are getting everyone else's experience, all their lives, all their experiences, all their vibrations. So you may have memories, you may not have memories, but everybody has the same memories. Does that make sense? It was hard for me to get my head around at the time, but
Yeah.
this explains to me why a lot of people that I talk about say that they were saying Mary Magdalene, for example. It's because we're all remembering the same life because it's happening to us all at the same time. So when you breathe in, you put your experience into the lake. Everybody has access to that. And when you breathe out, you're receiving all of their experiences. So in effect, you have experienced it because we're all connected, right?
Because we're all as one, like what the
Yeah, we
Bible would
are.
say, we're all as God.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense. That makes sense
Mhm.
because if we're all one, we're going to all have the same memories.
Yep. Yep. And some of us, we choose, I really believe that we choose whether we have the memories or not, whether we have a little bit of some memories or a lot of some memories or just none at all. And I think we decide that before we incarnate here. Because when you look at this world, you think, oh my goodness, what on earth was I thinking? You know, what did I sign up for heaven's sake, what was I thinking? But this is a place for learning. It's a place for for teaching and expansion, and it might not be fun most of the time, but it's sure helping you spiritually. And I think if we see it like that, we'll get through it better. We'll get through it a lot better. But that really validated that what other people were saying to me just didn't land with me at all. But what came out of that book was like, wow, that was like the missing piece of the jigsaw that I had been looking for quite some time, for quite some time. And to get more of an understanding, a deeper understanding about, galactic heritage and where we came from, and, the traits of the Orions. And it was very, very interesting. I had to read it 2 or 3 times, the same chapter 2 or 3 times for it to settle in, because it's quite a new thing for me, but it made total sense to me.
That's deep.
It is
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But it makes absolute
I,
sense, though, at the same time.
yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
It's,
Mhm.
hmm
Yeah.
yeah.
I see a lot of moving faces. I mentioned this to you earlier. Is I can't put my finger on it, but every so often, again, place between sleep and awake, well, just when I'm coming to, I have these really, really um specific images. I mean, it's like a photograph. It's so clear and so vivid. And it's all these faces, and they're just, coming from the side and stopping there, and coming from this side, coming from the top, coming from out here. And I don't know these faces. So I don't know whether I'm being shown my guides, or maybe somebody that's going to be coming into my life at some point. I don't know what it is that I'm seeing. and I don't understand really what that is, but it'll come to me at some point. Come
I
to me at some point. There's
understand.
so many of them.
Yeah, I was told that those are spirits that are looking for you. Like, um, they know that you're open, so they're coming to you to
Interesting.
give messages to give to somebody else. That's what I
Mhm.
was told. So it's just that you're open and you're seeing them, but you're not at the same level quite yet to be able
Mhm.
to get the message.
Yeah,
And you can
that's
ask them
interesting.
to come in one at a time so that you can see them better and all. So yeah, because I did the same thing. So I mean, it's very interesting.
It is. And recently
Mhm.
I've been getting confirmation that because I think a lot of people have been feeling really stuck. Things are just not happening. Things are not moving forward. We need to, take 2 steps forward and we're taking three back. We don't seem to be getting anywhere at all. And the information I've been getting is that I've been in a liminal space. Now I had to go and look that up. I had no idea what that was all about. But it's like a holding place, like a placeholder. So we are in this place so that we can allow energy changes to be fully embodied so that our new self can take over. So it's like a holding pattern, a plane circling around before it can come into land because our new person is not ready. The true you is not ready to come out. So that explained a lot for me as well, because I've been feeling like that for quite some time. And I think that the Schumann resonance has been very interesting to me as well, because for months there, I could look at the Schumann resonance, or I could tell you what the Schumann resonance would look like based on how I felt that day. And 9 times out of 10, I was absolutely right. Just on how I was feeling, if I was irritated, if I was tired, if somebody was really just bugging me, and that sometimes happened. And I could read the Schumann resonance before I even looked at the chart. I just found it amazing. I seem to have, a real sensitivity to energy, to that type of energy. But yeah, we're all in a liminal space, and I think we're all affected by many different things, many different things. And I think when big energy changes come in, you can either be floored by it or you can just, it doesn't affect you whatsoever. It used to not affect me, but now I find it affects me even more. And now I understand that when things like that happen and I maybe feel awful, I have to rest. I have to listen to my body, and that's what I'm doing. Um, you can't you can't do things when your cup's empty. You've really got to look after yourself first. You've got to replenish your energy levels, feel physically better before you can actually get up and do something. And now I don't fight it because we're told all the time, aren't we? You've got to work so hard. If you've got your own business, you've got to work 12 hours a day, you've got to work 90 hours a week, you've got to do your work, 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 work. No, that just doesn't work for me at all because if I push myself too much, then I'm overwhelmed and I'm flattened and I'm burnt out and it just doesn't serve me. If I feel tired one day and there's something I can put off to the next second day, I take that day as a rest. I do it regularly and it's been my saving grace, to be honest with you. Learning to listen to my body has been a hard thing for me over the last few years, but I have learned a lesson now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to push because when you're overly motivated, that's actually a form of resistance itself. If you're pushing too hard, then you're not allowing the energy to flow and you're not allowing the receiving to come in. And that's been my biggest hurdle, I think. That's the way we're brought up, isn't it? You've got to work hard. And it really
Mhm.
is, it's the wrong mentality, at least for me. It might work for some, but it's not working for me.
Yeah.
So I tend to go a lot easier on myself now.
Yeah.
And lots of little tweaks.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel signs and all within my body. I'm starting to
Mm,
understand them now. Like currently, right now, I'm ringing. it's consistent ringing for me right now. And I think it's because I've been bringing in so much light that it's stuck.
Mhm.
So I have to get in and go
Yeah.
in and relieve.
I was like that just recently. I've had an experience where, the light, the changes was all blocked. I didn't have enough time to embody it, and I just totally crashed. But you have to be aware of these sort of things before you can make it work. And God, it must be about 20 years ago, and I had a massive awakening about being aware, awareness. And like I was explaining in my previous marriage, things weren't good. They weren't good at all. And if you don't pay attention, you will, you keep getting like nudges every so often. And if you're not paying attention to the nudge, something will happen in your life. You will create something that will stop you dead in your tracks and make you listen. And that is exactly what happened to me about 20 years ago. In that marriage, wasn't happy. Took my kids to a karate class one night and I was thrown very badly, landed on my right hip and broke the bottom disc in my back. I was in so much pain. I have never experienced pain like it. I was flat on my back for 4 months. And it was a big awakening for me at that time. Um, I had I had not long gone through my Reiki class. And one of the books on the reading list was You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. You're probably aware of that book. I thought, oh, I've got that book. I'll go and read that. So I got the book. I couldn't do anything. I was lying flat on the couch at the time. So I thought, I'll go and get that book. And I opened up the book and I was halfway through the first chapter and she had wrote something like, you know, your life is your responsibility. You create your own life. And I'm thinking, that's nonsense. What is she talking about? I don't want to create pain in my life. What am I? That's rubbish. And I threw the book across the room and it stayed there for weeks. But I went back to work after 4 months and I had to go and see a counsellor just to make sure, see if they could make any accommodations for me at work because I was still in a lot of pain. And I went along to the counsellor and the first question she asked me was, so, how are things at home? And that was like my invitation just to dump on her. My emotions erupted like Krakatoa. I was in floods of tears. And I would tell her, my husband says this and he makes me feel like that. And I just feel awful. I was, all snot and tears. It was disgusting, really disgusting. But it was like a massive release to me. She then explained to me that I had been mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and verbally abused, probably for about 15 years, without me even realizing it, right? I had no idea what was happening. I was just putting up with it, and burying it all and pushing all the emotions down, which you cannot do. And that's how I found out. So that was a massive awakening for me. So 2 weeks after that, it was, I want a divorce. And those horrible, chaotic dreams that I was having for that 5 year, as soon as I told him I wanted a divorce, no dreams, nada. They just stopped completely. And it was months before I had any other dream. And that then was very hard hitting as well, because then it was validation for me that I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't going to be doing the right thing. So as soon as I did the right thing, I stopped getting those nudges in the forms of really chaotic dreams that I couldn't understand. So I went from a life of chaos to a life of peace. And you have no idea how much better that was. So that was a big awakening, a massive awakening for me. But I've kept on the energy healing side of it. I really enjoy it. I've done many modalities, but I think over the last 3 or 4 years, I've decided that I'm not doing anyone else's modality. I have my own. I can do it myself, and I think that's what I'm looking to teach my students. Here's the baseline. I can show you what I do. I can show you how I do it, and I'll explain to you why. That's your baseline. You can go and run with it because it will develop with you and it'll change. So I've been really, really enjoying that. But yeah, that was a big awakening for me. So if you don't listen, you're going to get a big wake up call. So there you are.
Yeah,
That's how it all
that would
started.
That is that I completely agree with that. I'm working on that right now. So I've got all those dreams and I'm starting to figure out what these dreams are trying to tell me. I'm starting to
Mhm.
see it now. And it's going to be so much fun when I get
I
there.
find if you look at repetitive dreams, if you get a repetitive dream coming up, I think that's very, very useful and I find it looks like it gives you information about your subconscious mind and some things that need to, like vibrational issues, blocks, things that you need to shift. If it's a recurring dream, then I always find them very interesting. But once you find the cause of it, it can take a little time, but once you find the cause of it, that recurring dream will go, and then it's almost like another theme will come in. So it's peeling away the layers of things that you need to deal with at that time. I find it fascinating, absolutely fascinating the way it presents itself to you for you to handle. Uh-huh. Yes,
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah. I yeah, I've got a theme, like two themes that keep showing up in my dreams. And I'm
Hmm.
starting to figure out, okay, this is where it's coming from. This is what's happening. This is where I'm supposed to be at.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, now I got to find the steps to get there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be presented to you as well when you're good and ready. Because I think I got impatient
Yeah.
for quite a while, oh, why is this not coming to me? But it comes to you when you're ready. It comes to you when you are in a mental space where you can handle it and not get even more overwhelmed. Yeah, absolutely. We need to embody change. And I found that acknowledging illness or acknowledging pain and saying thank you, and being grateful for it because it's teaching you a lesson. Just acknowledge it, know it's there, give it some thought, and thank it, and tell it to go. That you're grateful for the lesson that it's bringing you, and it's okay to go now. And just allow it to flow through you, rather than realize you've got a knee pain. Oh, I'll deal with that later. I'll deal with that later, and you don't give it any thought whatsoever. If you acknowledge it and accept it, then you'll be able to move through a lot faster, a lot faster.
Very awesome. Very awesome. But we have about 15 more minutes. So if you have any more stories you want to share?
Any more stories? Have I got any more stories? I think I've talked about everything that I can think about. Um,
Okay.
just now, I can't think of anything else or any of my mystical experiences. I think I've covered most of them.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That is cool. And um I've had a dream as a child, again, around my 6-year-old time frame. I had it for like a full week. Same dream. And I still remember it to this day. I repeat that dream in my head all the time. And it's really pretty interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How things work and how things are spoken to you and how the messages come across. And it's pretty
Hmm.
cool. Pretty
Yeah,
cool.
and sometimes I find some of them to be a bit prophetic, and you don't realize that at the time. Quite often, it's a few days after it happens that you connect the two of them. I had um, a dream that turned out to be prophetic. Oh, it was many, many years ago now, but I was looking after a section in a department when I worked for Sky, and I had this dream where there was a kiddie's swimming pool, like a
Mhm.
paddling pool, and there was these chickens, and there's no head, there's no feathers. It was like you buy them in the supermarket, and their little wings were perched over the back of this paddling pool, and the water that was in it was bubbling. And I thought, cooking chickens, boiling chickens, what on earth is going on? Until a few days later, there was this big incident at work and everything just blew up. And there was a lot of people in boiling water. So it was you put two and two together and the penny drops and you think, oh my goodness me, absolutely. Now that makes total sense. It was like I was being warned that there was going to be a big incident at work. It was going to need, careful handling. Not that I had anything to do with that, but it was still, in my vision, I still saw it and it was still
Right.
there when just in the same office, So yeah, very, very strange, very strange. And I think the only other thing I can think about, actually, I should have said this a while back if I forgot all about it.
Okay.
I was around about the time of my dad's death, and we were going to a spiritualist church to see if you could get, a message from my mum and my sister and I. I used to take my daughter as well, my youngest daughter. And there was an occasional thing that came through, which was quite good. But there was one guy there, one of the leaders in there. He kept trying to talk to me. He said, there's something there. I would like to talk to you about it. And I went, okay, what do you want to talk about? He says, I just feel there's something that you have that we can help you develop. Okay, or no idea what he's talking about, absolutely no idea. But he seemed to sense that I had some kind of psychic ability and he was wanting to help me to develop it. So I went along it was a couple of classes and they brought some people in that were in pain. And he said to me, he says, I want you just use your say, but explain to everybody that I was new, I was a newbie, and not to tell me what was wrong, to see if I could find it out myself. So he was explaining to me how to use my hands and how to feel for things. And so I did
Hmm.
like a scan of the body, around the head, etc., all the way down. And as soon as my hand got to her right knee, it was like the palm of my hand was on fire and it was all tingling. And I just said, I feel that for some reason, I don't know why I'm feeling this, but you seem to have real pain in that right knee. I said, your other one seems to be fine. It's nowhere near as bad. And she said that she had chronic knee pain and she was waiting for a knee replacement. And she was shocked. I think she was quite astounded at the things I was telling her because she said they were just so accurate. And another woman said exactly the same when I scanned her body. So that at that time, that was I suppose, the first time where I thought, oh, maybe there is something. Maybe there is something. Hmm.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So yeah, don't discount it. I mean, at that time, I was totally unaware of anything like that, but it's totally changed my life. Totally in a different place now, and I'm embracing it. I'm not keeping it quiet anymore because I think we do that a lot. We keep it all suppressed, and you don't want to talk about it for fear of being rejected, called woo-woo, called a nut job, whatever. And I'm sick of that. I'm absolutely sick of that now. So I will talk about things like that. And that's why I was explaining to my TV show is all about these experiences as well. Absolutely. I want people to come on. I want to help normalize these kind of experiences because just because no one else has experienced it doesn't mean it's
Mhm.
woo-woo. It doesn't mean it's false. It's
That's
happened to
right.
you and it's your truth. Yeah. It's 100%. And it happened. Yeah, and people are not going to tell me anymore, what to say and what not to say and how to behave because this girl's a rebel now. She's a rebel.
That's me. That's me. That's what I do this show for. So our shows are exactly the same thing. It's here to tell
Yeah,
the stories. So it's telling your truth, whether
yeah,
anybody else out there believes it or not,
yeah,
that's their choice. But it's also to say this stuff is out there. This stuff is happening. This stuff isn't woo-woo. This stuff is beautiful.
yeah.
This stuff is,
It's
it could be very
fabulous
beautiful.
experiences. Yeah,
Yes. Yes,
they are
absolutely.
amazing experiences. Your goosebumps from head to toe. How can goosebumps from head to toe be false? Whether it's in the physical reality or not, how can it be false? It's 100% correct in your mind, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Absolutely.
Right. That's beautiful to end with. So, yeah, thank you so much for being on the show and
My
sharing all your
pleasure.
stories that you don't normally get to do. So,
I know
yeah,
I don't. This has been nice.
it's great. Yeah. So, thank you so much for being on the show and spending your Saturday evening with me. And
Pleasure.
And so, if there's anybody else out there that has a story you want to share and just let people know about, give me an email, light talk with Dana, or I'm sorry, email lighttalk423@gmail.com, and we will talk about it. So, yes, we'll connect and get you going. So, thank you so much again, and we'll
My
talk with
pleasure.
you later. All right.
Absolutely. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.